Right, so this is the section that I've actually very much been looking forward to. We put out a feeler on the Instagram and Twitter to talk about who our listeners think the most streets won't forget player in Premier League history. Now, we might have a bit of recency bias. You know, we're not going to be plucking out a lot of names from the 90s Premier League and stuff, but I'm just going to go through some of the listeners' responses. So our good friend Adzi over on Twitter, he gave the shout that I think you'll quite enjoy, Ronan. Maxi Rodriguez, I know you were a big fan of him back in the day in
Best footballer in the world.
Liverpool's banter years.
The man only scored hat-tricks for Liverpool. I think he only scored like 3, but it seemed like he scored a hat-trick every time he actually played. Yeah, considering he never actually played, it is a lot. I think he scored 2 hat-tricks against Fulham, and he scored ones against Birmingham as well. Those were the Hudson and Dalglish years.
I can't really remember watching him as a Liverpool fan. I remember more banging goals against Mexico in the World Cup back in the day.
Scored one of the last goals of the Hudson era, if I'm not mistaken. I think we were bottom. I think it was like Halloween that season, Halloween Day. And we were in the bottom 3 or something, and he scored the last one against Bolton or something to lift us out of the relegation zone. I just kind of loved him since then. Yeah, I always liked Maxi Rodriguez.
I think that was a really good shout.
I think I nearly got him on the back of my jersey.
That'd be class,
yeah.
He always wore the long sleeve.
Yeah.
Big fan of that.
Yeah, I think I used to have a long sleeve jersey, and that's what I was thinking again, but I didn't. I ended up not doing it.
Yeah, you should have, man.
Yeah, great player.
We have another shout from our good friend Dara. He's part of the 1894 podcast, which is a Man City podcast. Would you believe they do have fans? I'm always going to make that joke. But make sure to listen to that there on YouTube and stream platforms. But he actually gave a great shout, one I hadn't thought of in quite a long time. Do you remember Elano?
Yes.
Yeah, it's sort of like 08-09 season, like a Brazilian midfielder. He was a victim of the Saudi takeover because he was really good for them and just got thrown out because of the likes of Robinho and Tevez and the boys. I thought that was fantastic shout. Elano was great.
Never heard that name before in my life.
Really
he scored a few. Yeah. Scored a few long range bangers, if I'm not wrong, back in the day.
That actually reminds me of another one that nobody said. This is maybe one of my suggestions. Giovanni.
Hull,
yeah.
Yeah, but Hull, he was a good match tack to have back in the day.
Also former Manchester City. Great player. But we had Kieran Crow get in touch with us on Instagram. He gave us a couple of interesting shouts. First one is Titus Bramble. In terms of streets, won't forget.
I think he's just an absolute Barclays player. If you had a Barclays 11, he'd probably get in it. But the streets won't forget is just
I was thinking of him the other day, and I can't remember why. We came up against someone who based their player off Titus Bramble.
Oh yeah, on pro clubs.
Yeah, but they had him playing left back, I think.
Can a centre back be streets? Won't forget.
I mean, if you're doing rainbow flicks and stuff, then yeah, but I think he was just Barclays.
When I see
Barclays,
every now and then you see people do like these streets won't forget threads on Twitter, and a load of people say Brie the Hangland, and I'm like, I'm not having that either. Like he was just a centre half. He wasn't.
I completely agree. I went through a couple of lists prior to this, and Hangeland was one of them. No,
if we have like I know they did this on Twitter before. I can't remember what the original tweet was, but it was like Barclays 11, like Hangeland and Titus Bramble would probably get in it.
Pretty solid back pair, yeah.
They're players that have been in the Premier League for quite a while that were just sort of there.
If it was ever going to be a centre half that was streets won't forget, I would have to say Maynard Figueroa, because remember he scored that goal for his own half.
Yeah.
But even that, it's not really. He was just kind of Barclays back in the day. Talking about Wigan players, actually, Hugo Rodallega, I don't think he was mentioned.
Oh, yeah, good shout.
He's still about. He's playing in Turkey. He's got a 75 rated card on FIFA.
He's still a goal player.
Yeah, amazing.
We had another shout from Kieran Crow. I prefer this one I hadn't thought of. Morten Gamst Pedersen.
I was thinking about him earlier on. Like, he just only scored screamers.
Yeah. Me and James would have actually seen him score at the Aviva. We were both at a Norway friendly back in 2010. He scored a free kick.
I remember one of my phone about he scored a Wigan. I think it was at the time. They scored from a corner kick, but he took the corner kick. We were like tapping it to the player that was there right in front of him as like a short corner, and the other player didn't touch it, and he crossed it in and went straight in or something like that, and the goal counted. I remember there was loads of controversy over that.
Well, that's quite quite Barclays, isn't it? You know, something like that.
Yeah.
But another fantastic shout by Kieran Crowe. I have to say, I can't comment on the man too much because he was kind of he's more so around before we were. But Lomana Lawal. Can you say you know anything about the man?
I've heard the name because it is a great name, but I think I only really started watching Premier League in 08-09. That was the first sort of year I watched it. So
he's quite a Premier League years player. I looked up his career. He's with Newcastle in the early 2000s before going to Portsmouth. And not to be confused with the modern day Lualua, who I still think plays for Luton. That's his brother. But also, Lomana Lualua is Yannick Bolassi's cousin. So, I mean, streets won't forget. Him. Yeah, that runs in that family. We had David Murphy from Two Men in the Podcast. He gave us a couple more obvious shouts. Adil Tarat and Hatem Ben Arfa. I think it's difficult to disagree with them. They're kind of the poster boys of the streets not forgetting a footballer.
Yeah, but I feel like Tarat was more of a championship streets won't forget, not like a Premier League streets won't forget, because he had that flair when they got promoted and then he just did nothing. He just got fat when he was in the Premier League.
Yeah, maybe so. He also gave us Nani, who I think is...
Oof, I don't think so. Nani
I think he's just too good.
He was just good, yeah.
Yeah, I think he was a bit too good. If he played for a Fulham or something, he'd definitely be in there, but he was just too good.
Did anybody say the Newcastle strikers, Ba and Cisse?
No, but Cisse was one of mine.
I think Cisse is my one, just because that season they nearly got Champions League football, and then he just kind of disappeared. Like everyone remembered the goal he scored against Chelsea, just outrageous.
Actually, he retired this week. Could you say Johan Cabaye as well? Like Newcastle had a lot of streets won't forget players because Cabaye was brilliant for Newcastle, and he went to Palace, but he didn't really do much at Palace. So I kind of think was he too good to be streets won't forget? I
think Ben Arfa is another Newcastle boy that they had.
Yeah,
and he somehow managed. He had a grand season with Nice one year, and then he got a move to PSG, and he did nothing.
Yeah. You still love just prowling around the French leagues, just taking random men back to the Tyneside. Like it's very weird recruitment.
And David Murphy's last shout was a one I was quite a big fan of. Do you remember Royston Drenthe when he was on that one season with Everton on loan from Real Madrid?
Yes.
Yeah, he wasn't very good, but I appreciate the shout nonetheless. I think the streets have very much forgotten about him though. Right, we had Stephen get in touch with us on Twitter. He said Lee Trundle, not a Premier League footballer, but I respect the sentiment nonetheless. We had Sammy _ SP. He got in touch with us on Twitter and he gives a great shout. Amir Zaki.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. Wigan boy back in the day.
He also said Michu. I think Michu, I don't think he really fits the criteria. He wasn't saucy enough.
I think he is the
ultimate. He is the ultimate. He's the number one, I think.
People talk about what you can buy in currencies of Michu.
I remember
Ronaldo would cost this many Michus. Like it's that. If that's not streets won't forget, then I don't know what is. He is the king.
Right.
King of the streets.
Remember when Neymar went to PSG for 220 million? I think it was Sunday League Hipster put tweet. It was like you could do like an entire League of Ireland of just Michus for that money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his celebration was so good. He used to celebrate and he'd twist his hand and his hair would just flow in the wind. It was just fantastic.
Peak one season wonder. So cheers, Sam, for getting in touch with us there. And the last shout from one of our listeners is my brother Phil. He said Stephen Carr. Now, he's very Barclays, but I think he thinks he's streets just because he was a right back or midfielder who would just score outrageous goals every so often. So, I mean, he gets some points with the streets, I think, but a white, bald man from Dublin, I don't think so. Okay, so thanks for all of our listeners for getting in touch there. But I'm going to put forward my decision for the most streets won't forget player, and it's not one that's been mentioned so far. Okay, this is a man who's very close to my heart back in, sort of 2010, 2011. Sunderland striker. He wore number 3, Asamoah Gyan.
Oh,
he's my most streets won't forget player.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I'd probably go for Michu myself, but just to kind of go against the grain a wee bit, probably Rocky Santa Cruz up there for his few seasons at Blackburn. He was unreal. Obviously went to City and was kind of City signed a lot of players like the early 2010s that just didn't turn out as good. Like they had I was going to say Adam Johnson there. Don't leave that in.
Leave
it in. Rocky Santa Cruz.
Straight don't forget him because he's a criminal.
Yeah, obviously City signed a lot of those players in the early 2010s that didn't end up being as good as they were at clubs like Blackburn. I think he's a good shout.
I'm going to go with Michu as my Streets Don't Forget one, but an honourable mention, another one we haven't mentioned, was Raul Meireles, sort of in the Bantry era. He scored some good goals for Liverpool, and then he went to Chelsea, won the Champions League. I don't know if he sort of fits the same criteria, but he's definitely in and around the same conversation. But Michu is the GOAT Streets Don't Forget player for me.
And for you, James?
I'd be inclined to go with the grain and go Michu too. But I'm going to go Remy Cabella because he added us on PlayStation. Absolute legend. Another one of the French Newcastle ballers. So
the streets forgot about him a long time ago.
We don't. He's still up on the timeline, you know.
I think Payet deserves to be in there. Like he only had 18 months in the Premier League.
He was too good that season. He was having the crack. He was having Rabona crosses. He scored every single free kick he got. He's Uber Eats, like he's eating.
It's not what streets forget is like players are only good for like a short time and then they kind of die off. Like Payet,
I think he's genuinely talented.
I suppose, yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Streets don't forget are just absolute bin men who have like one good season.
I suppose he fits the criteria of being great for a small amount of time, but ultimately wasting his potential and putting on lots of weight. So yeah. So we don't have an undisputed king of the streets, but
we might have to put this to a vote on Twitter.
Your mother is the queen of the streets.
There's 3 other people here that could be directed at any one of us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so actually, we're going to put the 4 of them. I don't think Remy Cabella will win. Who knows? But we're going to put the 4 of them to vote across our Twitter and Instagram. But a good conversation.